Hello and welcome to Securing a Data Warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics. We're going to be together for the next little while, so let me give you an idea of what you're in store for here. The focus on this course is Microsoft Azure Synapse Analytics, a modern data warehousing platform in the Azure cloud. Throughout this course, we are going to learn what the components of Azure Synapse Analytics are, how they fit together, and how we can deploy and use these components in a secure fashion. The way we'll learn is through a problem. We're going to work through a scenario with a made-up customer, but one with realistic expectations, and we'll show how Azure Synapse Analytics meets their needs. After this introductory section, there are going to be 7 key topics. The first is design. Here, we will deploy out and review all of the source data we'll need for this training. We'll design an architecture that we can implement throughout the rest of the training and go over some notes on regulatory compliance. Then, we will deploy Azure Synapse Analytics. After deployment is complete, we'll look at network security controls and then define role-based access controls for our corporate personas. From there, we will dive into the dedicated SQL pool. This is where we will create a warehouse and secure data with a variety of measures, including encryption, data masking, row-level security, and more. The serverless SQL pool introduces features and challenges of its own, and we will spend an entire section looking at it. This includes understanding how to secure data access and showing a way to implement row-level security for the serverless SQL pool. After looking at the 2 SQL pools, we will also check out Spark pools. In this section, I'll describe what Spark pools are and show how we can use them for data processing. Then, we will work through some of the security implications of Spark pools. Finally, we will retrieve data from Cosmos DB via Spark pool and then write it to our dedicated SQL pool. Synapse pipelines are our penultimate topic. We'll see how we can use these to migrate and transform data from a variety of locations. We'll also see how we can use integration runtimes securely to connect to resources hosted in Azure, in other cloud providers, and even on premises. Finally, we will close out this training with a discussion and demonstration of some additional tooling, including Microsoft Defender for SQL and Azure Policy. We will also cover 2 more features of Azure Synapse Analytics: data exfiltration protection and the use of customer-managed keys to encrypt data. There aren't too many requirements for this course. You will need a fairly recent operating system running the latest version of a browser. You'll also need an Azure subscription. If you do not have one, you can sign up for a free trial at the link provided. Basically, if you can access the Azure portal with your computer, you're all set for this training. If you happen to know some things about Azure networking, Azure security, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, the Python programming language, Azure Resource Manager templates, or Azure Active Directory, well, you'll see how these will all fit in. If you aren't familiar with any of these topics, don't worry. We'll walk you through what you need to know in order to follow along. Before we get into the course, I do want to note 2 things. First, Azure Synapse Analytics is expensive. This can be one of the most expensive services in a customer's environment, and the costliest piece of it is the dedicated SQL pool. Be sure to pause the dedicated SQL pool when you are not using it. We'll create a pool and it will be active, so you'll want to pause it immediately and keep it paused when you aren't working on this course. I chose a small pool size to reduce costs, but even so, they add up quickly if you leave it running 24/7. Also, the Synapse surface area is enormous. As you saw in the roadmap slide, there are a lot of components in Azure Synapse Analytics, and each is effectively its own product. We won't be able to cover everything in this course, so I want to give you about 80 to 90% of the breadth of Azure Synapse Analytics, meaning that we will hit on almost all of the relevant topics around this platform. Furthermore, we'll hit about 40% of the total depth. Several of the topics we will discuss could be entire trainings of their own, and large-scale data solutions have a tendency to require rather nuanced answers to simple questions. After this training, you won't be an expert on Azure Synapse Analytics, but you should know enough to ask the right questions and figure out where you need to dig deeper for your particular situation. And with that, I hope you're as excited to go through this course as I am in delivering it. Let's go.